Just talk among yourselves, everyone. Benji, make presenter. Oh, we can only have 3 presenters. I see. All right. So my
Drop out.
Yeah, no, I can too. See you later. I'm out of here. I'm gonna remove. I'm gonna make. There we go. Just shuffling a few people around. Just organising some chairs for those people. Here we go. Magic. Benjamin is in the house. Turn your camera on, Benji, so we can see your beautiful face. This is great. How's my microphone these days? Is it a bit crackly still, or is it sort of itself out?
It's not as bad as earlier, but it's still doing its thing.
Okay. We'll have to pretend I'm a robot.
Don't have to pretend.
You are. Benji.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Good.
Oh, it's gone.
His microphone got muted.
Here we go. Chief of Technology, Benji.
Can you hear me?
I can.
We can.
Oh, actually, I look. There's a site screen which is half of the screen that I'm in.
Yeah, it's a big platform. Getting on early was an option, but never mind. Let's be organised. Get things underway quickly. Well, that's all we have time for, folks. So it's been great. It's been great. Good comments, good questions. Benji, how's your day been?
Good day. Busy but good. If you hear my kids in the back banging the door, you know how my day was.
Yeah, you need to buy them a drum set, Benji. We've had this talk. Excellent. Well, this is just a bit of an informal chat, a bit of a discussion. We've got some people that are joining from all over the place. Have been doing a bit of campaigning to get some people into this chat, because I want to know a little bit more about what happens in the music education space in regards to the admin process that they do have, or that they don't have. More to the point, or those that do have them but don't really work very well, and it can get quite messy. So this is why we've had, that's why I have Benji and Michael Davis involved in this webinar today. So thank you guys for joining in. I appreciate your input. I wanted to just talk about a few things during the webinar. It's not too important to most music educators get their admin right. And through the last few years, many years, probably 5 to 10 years, in fact, I've put a lot of effort into trying to figure out what the best practice is for music education administration processes. And I think I've got it right. Full disclosure, not here to sell or to promote or to do a demonstration of our product called Sammy. Many of you that are in this webinar can see that I've been building a product called Sammy, and this is not the event where I'm going to be promoting or demoing the product. So just full clarity around that. I do want to talk about where your pain points are as a music educator, and what problems you have faced as an educator, particularly in the admin space, trying to get money from the students or scheduling or whatever the process might be. So you want to talk about that for a little while. What I'm going to talk about, I've got some questions coming from the audience, and I've had a couple that have already pre-sent to me. So I'm keen to get those in front of you just to see what you would say as Michael and Benji, and how you think you might solve this problem for them. I would like to have a bit of an open discussion with anyone else that's in the chat about where they think they've got wrong, what they think they've got right. So that's important for me, because I've got some ideas and I think I've got most of it correct, but I want to try and provide some kind of best business practice for music educators. Now, I'm doing that with our platform called Sammy. But just by being involved in this webinar today, there is a bunch of free things that you'll get. We tried to value stack this as much as we could. So when Benji's chatting, he's going to talk about the benefits you'll get by way of discounted for his platform that he's built called My Gigsters. We'll talk about that in just a moment. And Michael David does a lot of consulting with organizations, be it a solo operator like many music teachers are, right up to corporate level. And Michael's been a part of my organization and my life for almost 15 years, I think. So is definitely a big part of my world. So I thank you, Michael, for being involved and giving up the time. Both of you, of course. Other things that you'll get by just being involved in this webinar today are discounts for things like the Music Teachers Association have every second year they have a summer conference. It's quite an event. It runs over 2 days. People come from all over Australia, in fact, overseas in some cases. We've got a presenter coming from New Zealand this week, this particular event to speak. And the discount that they've offered is 10% off the price. So at the end, you'll go to a page where it has all the coupon codes and things like that. We'll get Benji's from him somewhat throughout this, or even email it to our guest list. Michael's offering a 50% off a consultation with him as well. What else is there? There's a bunch of things, but I think I just want to start by highlighting a couple of the concerns that I feel that happen in the music education space, the admin side of it. Let's just assume that every teacher that's watching this or involved in this webinar, whether it's a replay or whether it's they're live here right now, I'm going to assume that the educator is an amazing educator and they do their job perfectly well. The kids are practicing, they're learning, they're inspired, and the teachers are doing great. We're going to take that as a given, because in most cases they are. Some they're not, but in most cases they are. But one of the things I want to touch on is the point of the admin. The admin is something that can be quite scary for many music educators, because being creative, we're not very analytical. We don't really, wake up in the morning and go straight to the computer and design code and spreadsheets, and we don't get excited about Excel forms and invoicing. Which kind of tells us why we don't, we live in a world where we write off so much money. We don't get paid for the work that we do. And the work that we do is life-changing. Me being a music student at one point, and I still am, the lessons I received when I was a young boy changed my life. And if I can have that kind of effect on someone else, then I know that it's life-changing for many music educators and their students. But what is equally life-changing is giving up because they don't get paid for the work that they've done. They have to write off a bunch of invoices because they just don't feel right chasing them. So let's go through a bit of a process of what happens at the beginning of a school term. You guys can jump in with anything at any point if you feel like this is you've got something to add here. So let's just say Term 1, 2024, which is only 11 or 12 school weeks away now. You have a list of students that you had from the year before. You calculate how many lessons they will have in the year. In the term. I don't know many parents that pay for the full year, but in most cases, the educator invoices the parent for week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, all in one invoice. And they go, you must pay by the second week or I'm not going to continue working with the kid. That never happens. We never cut off a kid. We should, but we don't. So I think with having an invoice for one child, multiply that by however many students you have. I have 80 students a week that I give lessons to, and I wouldn't have that many if it wasn't for a simple process. You write the invoice out. It goes to the parent either by email, SMS, or even printed and handed to them. The kid will take it home. The kid may not take it home. It'll be in the lunchbox. It'll get covered in banana juice. The parent, you may not even know that the parent has received it. And then you ask them if they're going to pay it. And then they say they've never received it. And then you're like, I'll have to send you another one. And then the process happens again. So that's pretty common. And then they get the invoice and they go, okay, this is the whole term. It's $350, $35 times 10. I got to find $350. Cool, I'll pay it. The educator now has $350 hard-earned dollars. This is Pete coin, yeah? So the educator has $350. It's with them now. So $35 per lesson times 10 lessons. What if I can't make the lesson for some reason? And it happens. I can't get there because my car's broken down. I can't get there because I'm ill. Something might have happened. It happens. There's no denying that. So by me holding on to all this money, I don't go, sorry, I didn't give the lesson back. I didn't give the lesson to you. Here is your money back. That doesn't happen. So what would happen then in that case? It would be the educator would write next term's invoice, term 2, 2024, for the entire 10 weeks. Let's just assume each week is 10 weeks. Each term is 10 weeks. And then they deduct one lesson from that because it's making up for the lesson I've just missed. And that's just one student and it's already messy. Or they do a makeup lesson. And if I can't make one day at school, I've got 7 students at one school, 12 at another, 20 another. If I'm going to have a day off, I'm going to try and be sick on the day where I had the least amount of lessons to have to make up. Because sometimes I just can't. So I'm like, all right, so I'm going to try and schedule in a whole day. I can't schedule. If you have enough time in your calendar to schedule lessons, if you're maybe you don't teach every day because you need that day to reschedule. But that's costing you money as well. So that is a real world scenario that happens. And Sammy, again, not selling, just telling, Sammy solves that problem by taking something we think is best practice. One of the questions that come through from Morgan, he wanted to know what software there is available, what software programs or platforms, and in plural, to help manage the lesson, manage the schedule, so he didn't have to do makeup lessons. That was his biggest concern. By doing it the way that I've just suggested, whether it's cash, whether it's paid invoice, there is no other way. You've either got to find the time to make up the lesson, or you have to give the money back, or you have to reschedule next term. That sounds messy. Now, I know why the educator charges for the whole entire term. Because if they don't, they have to chase the money every week. Or they charge at the end of the term, so they do the whole entire 10 weeks of lessons for free until the end of the term, then they get paid. That way they can kind of tally it off as they go. Then they provide the invoice to the educator, to the parent at the end of the term, and then the parent goes, oh, but hang on, we weren't there for that lesson. Yeah, but you didn't tell me. So I'm going to charge you for that, but I don't want to pay for that because I wasn't there. I did tell you. I told little Johnny to tell you, or little Johnny didn't tell me. So I rocked up to teach little Johnny and he wasn't there. So there are so many problems in that one simple story that we can eradicate with better business practices. Is there a better way? Benji? Michael?
Absolutely.
Is that how you would do it? How would you? Do you see any problems here?
Yeah, I think it's not only that it's a headache or it's an issue that you would like to handle, but it's also, let's say you are actually firefighting this, right? Today you are firefighting. If you don't have an automated system or a platform or any of that sort, you are actually rolling up your sleeves and actually doing this. I like to say that by actually firefighting, you're missing out the opportunity of doing one more class. You're actually missing out the opportunity to earn more money, and this is a loss of income in one way, or it's just that additional things that your time is more valuable than doing this. So an efficient business owner or the business need here is to find out a mechanism that would eliminate these edge cases or eliminate these what if conditions. And that's why systems are used, whether it's a basing accounting tool to or a platform that Sammy visions to be. All of this are there for the sole purpose that as a musician, you love what you love to do and keep doing what you need to do. The rest of the things are handled by softwares or systems and processes.
Yeah. Yeah. Having a simple invoicing platform is definitely a big start. And many educators may not even have that. In true fact, I've got 3 friends who are waiting for our new SAMI build to be out because they don't even have an invoicing platform. They're using a Word document and they just change the details on that. So the other problem here, the parent paying the money. Now, a dear friend of mine, she's a CEO of a company. She's very smart, very busy, and she's got both of her children learning 2 instruments each. She can afford the lessons. It's not a problem. But when the invoice comes from both of those teachers, 4 of those teachers for both of those children, they're all done in a standard, basic. There's no click to pay. Here's your bank account details. You need to open the thing. You need to go to and for a busy human, a busy parent, that's not something I feel excited about asking them to do. And then they just hadn't got around to it. And then I have to ask again, and they just hadn't got around to it. And ultimately,
this is actually Peter.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
So two of my sons have 2 different teachers, and they're both great teachers, but they both send through Word documents. Now, the Word documents that I receive, one of them actually presents okay when I look at it in the preview handler in the Outlook, in Gmail, and I can view it, and it views fine, and I can pay it because I can see it. The other one comes through, and I think they do some sort of image thing in the middle of the document, and when I try to look at the document, I can see everything but the amount that I need to pay, which is fantastic because it means download the document before I actually can see what I need to pay. So it's just that extra step, which means that I'm going to do it later. And so I think I get 2 or 3 reminders actually from the teacher before that one gets paid. But the other one, when it comes through, because I can see it, it gets paid straight away. But the other one, that's that simple act of having to actually download the invoice before I can view it and see the amount that I need to pay, stops me from doing it. It's this very simple thing, but it's just one of those things.
Yeah. We got to make it easy for everybody. And that's why I like the idea of best practices, good outcomes for all. There's a best practice here. There's a pay when you can policy that most educators might have. It's fine. Pay me later. I've got another job, so it's fine. I make my money stacking shelves at Bunnings or doing something else. It's fine. Teaching is my hobby. I like to do it. Pay me when you can. That also doesn't bring us educators a professional standpoint as well. We're changing lives. I wouldn't manage their business like that. But we're not fixing pipes. We're fixing brains. So a little bit more important, perhaps. Michael, while you're there, let's talk quickly about talk a little bit more about that, the benefits of running a music education business. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you.
Davis from Accounting Buddy.
Yes. So I run an accounting business. Taxation and accounting is what we do day in, day out. But we help a lot of small businesses to medium-sized businesses run their day to day. Not just the end of year accounts, but actually the day to day operations, whether it's payroll, helping them keep their books, all sorts of compliance that comes up. And it's every business owner's struggle is keeping up with the administration and compliance tasks. There is so much that a business owner has to do, and not just the job, and it's doing the job, focusing on the job, doing a good job, and teachers helping their students and focusing on what the students' needs are, and then keeping up with their own learning and, what the other potential things that they could be doing in a lesson environment are. But then it comes back to the administration. And you mentioned before about if somebody doesn't turn up, what are the extra administrative tasks that have to take place then? Whether it's passing on homework or getting in touch with the parents or getting in touch with the student. But then the big one is, invoicing. I mentioned before, parents paying on time, or, the class is being paid for. Sending out all of the invoices each term, creating some sort of document that then gets updated and gets updated correctly. If you miss off 1 0 or 1 digit, put the decimal point in the wrong spot by doing manual processes, you can lose out on a serious amount of money, especially if you're replicated across a lot of invoices. And then you've got to do the embarrassing thing and ask for more money because you've sent out an invoice that wasn't correct or wasn't updated. So there's lots of things that these systems, or the failure of having systems really break a business down. It really hurts a reputation. People, think ever so slightly differently of you because of the way that you run your business.
Yeah.
And with so much going on in business, it really helps to have systems in place. I think we did a count the other day, and we've got around 11 different pieces of software that we use just to run our business. All the different tasks that we do, there's not just one job management tool or anything like that. The clients are managed between 3 or 4 different direct pieces of software, having to keep everybody's name up to date. So managing systems becomes a thing, but without them, everybody would fall through the gaps. Jobs would get passed.
Talk a little bit about the other side of the coin, because you've talked about invoicing, which hopefully money comes in.
Yes.
But there's also expenses to run a business and actions.
Without the money coming in, you can't pay your bills. Is obviously a fun one. But the money part aside, even just managing and tracking your bills. So again, using software to know what your bills are and when they're due. Being able to see when your bills are due for payment and how much money is due to go out, whether it's this week, next month, those sorts of regular things. Budget planning is a massive one that we obviously get involved in. But even just your calendar scheduling, using your calendar to know when your bills are coming up. So using systems and software is massively important in managing your business.
That's an absolutely beautiful segue into Benji. Because I know what both of your businesses are. Michael has never met Benji, but Benji has a platform called My Geeksters. Now, My Geeksters can talk a little bit about, they can help a little bit about some of these processes and these tasks. Benji from My Geeksters, the floor is yours.
Thanks. And I think Michael has clearly stated, and one of the biggest challenges that, as me, I've been a freelancer myself, and I'm not particularly excited about all the admin work that comes along with it. And My Geeksters was built on that fundamental that we could use, or we can leverage technology, make it easier, make it automated, and done for you rather than you have to do it yourself. And in our journey, we have a massive community of over 7,000 members across Australia, and we have all sorts of freelancers, all the way from dog walkers to photographers to game streamers. I recently met a TikTok influencer that joined our platform, and musicians. And the list is big because everybody is choosing to follow their own passion and make money or monetize their skills, which is really good. And after COVID, the stage has become even more bigger for anyone to participate and earn money through different platforms. But if you hear from Michael's part, right, and when we went and asked accountants, how happy are you when you're dealing with, sole traders or self-employed? They're like, oh, they are not always the most disciplined candidates in the room. They often rock up to the accountant usually after the end of the financial year. Here's my bank statement. Here's the shoebox of receipts. Do whatever magic you can and just get me the maximum deduction possible because I don't have enough money to pay, or I need to know how much I need to pay. So at this point, the accountant also doesn't really have much opportunity to help you, right? Ideally, the accountant's skill set is to help you in tax planning, in tax advisory, to business planning, business advisory. That's where his skill is. And they say they will add more value. But because of this poor hygiene of maintaining financial, the accountant, Michael can pitch in, usually spends around 80-85% of the time just doing retro bookkeeping. And back and forth. What did you buy that for? Do you have a receipt for that? Was it for business? And then we come to a conclusion. So we thought, okay, how can we change this? How can we help both sides of the table, as in the accountants and freelancers? And that's what MyGigs just does. We are not an accounting firm nor a registered tax agent. We work with accountants such as Michael and the others in the industry. But our platform uses a bit of machine learning and AI. And what it does is, let's say, Pete, you're a drummer, and the system knows you're a drummer and you're a musician. As part of it, you drive for work and you would work from home, probably a few hours a day to do invoicing and management. So it knows your profile, and based on your profile, it automatically would go and pick out potential tax reductions from your transaction history. So it look at your bank feed and look at the items that you have spent money on, and it will use the algorithm to pick this item could be a potential deduction for you based on your profile. I'll give you a small example, right? Let's say I'm a driver driving for Uber. This is how it works. It looks at my bank, and let's say there is Hello Wash. As you know, Hello Wash is a car wash. It will say, oh, Hello Wash is a car wash. And then the algorithm will say, car wash is potentially tax deductible for rideshare drivers. It doesn't stop there. It will go and see whether other rideshare drivers in my platform have said yes to it. And that was called network confidence. If the network confidence is more than 95%, it gets presented to me. Hey, Benji, looks like you made a $10 car wash and that could be potentially deductible. Do you agree? Yes or no? I can choose to say yes or no. Or I can choose to say no, it's yes, but it's only 50% of it. So what we are trying to do is, usually when it comes to expense tracking, people either forget, people lose out receipts, people don't track them. And if they don't track them, when times comes like GST or BAS lodgement or end of year tax lodgement, it becomes really harder and they don't really have much time to help them maximize their deductions or, find out opportunities of what can I do in order to reduce my liability. So our platform works with accountants. Accountants get the data export out of this. We call it as a clean data export. The system produces a data export that the accountant can get, verify it, and then lodge it, which is the last step. The accountant is still important in this equation. We're not trying to replace the accountant because we wanted to amplify the value that accounting services provide, which is tax planning, tax advisory, rather than bookkeeping. I'm sure most of the accountants we spoke to, just for the audience general knowledge, usually they outsource this activity to Philippines and outside the country to do bookkeeping, because that's not a happy task for the accounting firm. So that's what MyGeeks does. So we are a tech platform. We are an app that automatically does it for the user, and be able to connect to either their own accountant or an accountant in our portal. So we've got over 25 different accounting partners on the portal. So essentially they can connect to any one of them, or they can simply introduce their own accountant. We're happy to work with them. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like an amazing, beautiful plugin for our platform too. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we can connect those dots and those zeros and ones. Amazing. You talked about this a little while ago. I don't know your system now, but you did a post about a week or so ago about planning for a paid day off.
Correct. Yes.
tucking some money aside so you can actually have a paid day off. So just like you would be if you were employed so as a music educator, your hourly rate is something between sort of $70 to $100 an hour, $35 a lesson, upwards from there. So $100 an hour, you're not going to get that kind of job working, stacking shelves. You'd have to go do a bunch of years and get some kind of degree. So music educators, they do well when they manage it properly. But one of the things that we don't manage is clearly our finances and our time. So if we can join finances and time together, means we can have a paid day off. Like I need to go, I need to not work this week, or I need to enjoy my 2 weeks holidays, budgeting for that. And your platform does that too. Is that correct?
Yes. So we do it as a pilot right now with platforms, not as a production. You won't find it on the website, but we do that as an exclusive pilot with gig platforms. But I think the need there is, and don't get me wrong when I say this, right? Tax is not the only problem. Tax is an obligation. You earn money, you pay tax, right? It's very simple. And if you're smart about it, you can track your expenses, use the best of your options available to maximize your deduction. So it's not the only problem, and it's not the end of all. So, but it is an important thing, and many people are stuck with it, which is fine, which is where accounting companies and solutions help. But there's a bigger problem also, which is, in my opinion, is financial wellness, financial security. When we went and spoke to, thousands of gig workers and freelancers and musicians, like one of the things we asked, when do you take a day off? Do you take a day off? Like, no, because I don't know when should I take a day off. Okay. Do you contribute to super? Do you have any kind of support? Like, do not have, the last thing I did super was like 10 months ago, and I really don't do that very well. And okay, let's make it even more basic. Do you have some emergency funding? Because let's say you are not feeling well, something happened, right? You're not able to work for 2 weeks. How do you support yourself? Have you figured that? Because if you were working for a company 9 to 5, you would have got this benefits as a fixed thing. Like you would have got a PAYG, some leave, some benefits. But if you're on your own, you all of a sudden have the responsibility to make those benefits yourself. And this is where financial due diligence goes to the next stage, because you got to now handle money even more smarter. I remember, Pete, when I was doing food delivery many years ago, I used to do a couple of deliveries at night. And this was I was just married. So me and my wife would drive this olden Astra car in Melbourne and do deliveries. And this whole night I'll get $80, right? In my mind, I thought $80. Wow, $80? I would just go spend $80 the same night. I was young. I didn't know that the actual $80 includes my tax, my GST, my running cost of my business. And you actually boil it down, it looks like I would have earned probably $47, $50. But I didn't know. And little alone I'd contributed to anything like an insurance or anything like that. One of the things, like I'm sure Michael will also second to this, is, when it comes to freelancers with taxes, you have to go pay to the ATO at the end of the day. It's not a happy thing, like you're waiting for a refund. So the question there is, I don't know how much I owe to the ATO, which bookkeeping can help you. Number two, now that I know how much I need to pay for the ATO, where do I get that money from? So ideally, in a good practice is you keep that money aside, you don't touch it, and when time comes, you have that money ready to go pay. So our vision is to mimic that through a platform. We call it as a personal payroll and benefits platform. So essentially, you could come and you could say, Benji, I want 5 days of leave. I want some money kept for emergency. I want to keep my tax money aside so that I don't have to be surprised at the end of the year. And you can set it up and you can let Sammy know, hey, before you send my $100 to me, can you just distribute that so that I'm okay? And the simple principle is out of sight, out of mind, right? It's the oldest trick in financial book. You keep the money aside, put it aside, and you don't have to worry about it. So we're trying to automate that through a platform, and that's where we call ourselves as employee-like benefits for self-employed.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Sounds pretty good. Hook me up. So you've been you've been busy at work doing this. It's great, and I think it's just what a lot of self-employed people need.
Yes, I think it's if you remove technology, right? Let's say there is no platform, there is no technology, there is no automation, but the premise is still really important. Whether you have a tool or not, it is really important. And I think listeners and everybody in this space should consider how do they manage money, not only for their business, but also, how do they take care of an emergency? How do they take care of an off season? How do they take care of a surprise bill? And having to think that is really important, whether they do it in small chunks or, and whether they use it a tool or not. That's good business practice, and it will personally help them. Yes.
Great. Excellent. I love it. There was great. So we've heard from both of you. You've both got some amazing things that are happening. Michael's there to help. At the end of that, Michael's the catcher before it goes off to the tax guy. But yeah, I think trying to just help music educators. That my domain is music education all the way. So that's my playground. I've been a music teacher since I was 15. I've played drums since the age of 10. I have built my entire life around being a music educator and automating out the shit that I do not want to do. And Michael's been by my side this whole entire time. He's seen some of it. And I remember being at a place a little while ago, many years ago, and we were just, how about this one? Are you going to end up getting this money? Nah. What about this one? Nah. What about this one? We literally wrote off something like $7,000 worth of invoices, that were old, not recent. I just hadn't bothered chasing up.
I think that was when transitioned from an older system there.
Yeah. There's been a couple of people pop in here, and I want to get their questions in a minute. I want to talk about another safety blanket that I've just sort of been made aware of in a couple of weeks ago. There is a school that has had a music teacher work there for 2 weeks at the beginning of this term 3, and he took over from another teacher. So he came in at the beginning of term 3. He invoiced all the parents at the beginning of the term. And once again, this is not a brag about Sammy and the solutions that we're trying to solve, but this is a problem that should never happen. And I don't think there's a mechanism to solve this problem or to avoid this problem from happening. Teacher was there for 2 weeks. Teacher got paid, once again with my Bitcoin. The teacher got paid all the money. 28 students times $38 per lesson times 10. So we're talking almost just over 10 grand's worth of invoices that had been paid within a couple of weeks. Teacher disappeared with all the money. That's not good. It doesn't happen very often. So it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen all that often. But with our solution, the educator will only ever be paid, and this is not a bad thing. The educator will only ever be paid for the lessons they have provided. Okay, that's cool. What about the parent side of the coin? The parent will only ever pay for that week's lessons that has been provided. So the teacher can't run off, because if the teacher runs off, they're only ever going to get that 1 week that they've worked for anyway. Parent is never going to be out of pocket and trying to chase that money down. And this has nothing to do with the school. The school is not responsible for any of this. The school, we've given you a space to teach. We've given you the student to teach. You handle the money between the parent and you. That's your thing. And then the teacher runs away. So Sammy would be the safeguard in this scenario from ever happening. Because as a Sammy admin, I can jump onto Sammy and go, oh, that teacher's disappeared. Click a button. money goes back to the parent. No harm, no foul. And then the new teacher comes on. Teacher's like, I'm with Sammy. That's fine. They roll all the students. Students have their lesson. Educator gets paid. So, yeah, that was an interesting one that sort of popped up last week, which is really, really cool. I've got a couple of questions that have come through. I'm gonna go to Q&A in just a moment. And what this beautiful platform allows me to do is to highlight the questions, and we can kind of talk about them a little bit. Michael, can you just touch a little bit on GST for a moment? What does that mean for a solo operator or a musician?
So once you're registered for GST, you have to register for GST once your turnover exceeds $75,000, but you can volunteer and be in the system from any dollar point. The big one with GST is whatever your sales price is, you have to put GST on top and then charge that through to your students. So if you're normally charging $30 and then you're registered for GST, you'll be charging $33. $3 of which you'll have to collect and then give to the government as you report your business activity statement each period, whether that's monthly or quarterly. And inversely, as you purchase items, let's say you purchase something for $110, if there's $10 worth of GST in there, you'd be able to claim that $10 worth of GST in relation to those purchases. So that offsets the sales position. So if you've got $3,300 worth of sales, $300 being GST, and you've got $1,100 of expenses, $100 of GST, your $300 of GST on sales offsets against the $100 of purchases of GST, and you have to pay $200 to the ATO. One of the positions, as Benji was talking about before, was about having that sort of put aside as you go along, and typically what I tell all of my clients is, at a very minimum, 30% of every dollar that you receive is not yours. At a minimum, whether it's 10% for GST, 20% for tax, we're not even covering, the basics at that 30% level. So I typically tell people somewhere between 40 and 45% is what we want to cover, so that we can put money aside for things like future savings or just being able to pay the GST bill as it comes up each quarter. Is that what you're sort of looking for there, Pete?
Yeah, absolutely. So the other question is then, what happens at tax time when I haven't put that money aside?
Then you end up with a nice bill from the ATO that you've got to figure out how to pay. But typically we have a few months after the end of the year in which you have to pay it. But, some clients end up having... But then clients end up having to go into payment terms and things like that. But then the problem is, by the time they finish paying that one, the new debt's already come around and they've got two debts at the same time. Heaven forbid they live another year and make it into the third year. Yeah,
I get you. So one of the things that we'll be implementing into SAMI is, at the end of every week, the money that I've earned as an educator, it all comes to me. But having the ability to put some of that directly into the ATO, so obviously 10% being tax part, or even more, or maybe you just put it into another account so you can deal with it later. And so that's one of the things that we'll be implementing as well. So my goal, my dream is to automate all the stuff that we just forget about that makes us look like we don't know what we're doing. So if we can have a platform that allows us to, one, schedule professionally and organize our calendars and onboarding our new students, get paid for every lesson without having to burden the parent. If we can't rock up to a lesson, it's no big deal. We're not a burden to our own calendar or our own finances, and automate some of those silly, stupid things like the tax, so we don't have to, think about it. So it's some automation there. And with what Benji's saying as well, automating the other parts where it's finding those deductions throughout your platform, throughout your daily life with whatever you're doing, putting some aside for a day off or emergency spending and stuff like that. I think, well, we've got the right people in the room here. We're all on the same mission. It's great. So one of the questions that I have from Morgan, I paraphrased it earlier, that I'm going to read it verbatim. Morgan asked, my biggest concern with music administration is being able to keep on top of my invoices. I find that my current challenge is making the time to chase up families with reminders of overdue payments. I'm also keen to see what other topics are brought up concerning music administration. Thank you, Morgan. So, we've touched on this briefly throughout this chat, but so let's pull that apart. Finding time to chase up families with reminders of overdue payments. Let's get rid of the overdue payment so we don't have to spend any time chasing money. No chasing money with Sammy. And once again, not selling, just telling. But don't be afraid. Jump on sammy.com.au and pre-register for our launch. You'll save some money there for our first 500 followers. Don't have payments that are owed to you. Be ahead of that. Sammy allows that to happen or automates that. So then you are never having to chase an invoice, never having to pay anyone back. So you don't even have to chase yourself to pay the money back if you ever have to do that. So I think that's a great question from Morgan. So that question come in. We did a big email campaign, and the standard stuff happens. So how did you get my email? So I responded to those with, I got your email because you've subscribed to my list. You're a music teacher in that location. Oh, great. Excellent. Thank you very much. Would you like me to take you off the list? No, I was just wondering where you got my name from. Cool. So I spent the time doing that. This one come through from Morgan saying, I really appreciate your effort here because no one's doing this stuff. No one's collaborating and trying to find solutions for these problems. Well, I have been for many years, Morgan, and to all the other people that are listening right now, this is something that's a big part of my life. And if I can streamline my organization to scratch my own itch as a music educator that teaches all day in schools, Monday to Friday, I know 100% that there are so many other music educators, not just in Australia, but in the world, that are having exactly the same problems and creating all these beautiful, wonderful ways of one educator who was getting paid in Coles vouchers. Yeah. I'm not sure that's, not very kosher, but here is a Coles card to the value of a bunch of lessons.
Hard to pay your tax bill with a Coles voucher.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have tax bill with a Coles voucher?
Yeah.
Oh, great. What a great idea. Don't do that. I think there's something not quite right there. But once again, not their bread and butter, not their what's the word? Not their full-time income. Yeah. Interesting. There's some other questions here. The GST one we've touched on from Lee. Lee is one of the guys who I work with today at one of the schools. He came into the lesson. He sat down, looked a bit drained. I guess, how do you, I read, because I'm a columnist for the Music Teachers Association of South Australia, and I wrote a thing in there, and he read it because he's a member, and he sat down, he's like, man, seems like I'm doing it all wrong. Like, the things that you mentioned in this column seem pretty simple. But what do I do about GST? And Michael, you've answered that question, but the concern that he has with the school is the school have set the fee of $35 per lesson, and he's registered for GST. So you're like, well, do I charge it? So, you should. You don't get that money. Otherwise, you're giving a 10% discount to everybody just because you're registered for GST. But they weren't really happy about it when I put the price up. So, well, I've just got to let them know. I've got same students, many students in the same school, and I charge GST. This is a private school. The parents understand what GST is. Most of them are own businesses. They get it. They understand. But he is a little bit weary about it. He's not quite sure whether it's something he should be doing or not doing. And I'm all for it. It's like, it's not your money. It's for the tax department. You still get your 35. don't need to give a discount. Otherwise, you're lowering your fee, and if that's what you want to do, that's what you're doing. So, yeah. There you go. Interesting stuff. Well, we're at the end now. There's a little button here. I just want to play with it. There's a Q&A button. I can click a list here, and I believe I can bring a somehow I can do a QA mode. I think that all the questions that have come through in that general chat, if they could go in the QA mode now, that would be great, and then I can bring them up on the screen to make sure we haven't missed any of them. Been great having you on. I appreciate you both being here. I appreciate everyone in the audience being here as well, whether it's a replay or a live. Right now, it's 7:30 almost here in the beautiful sunny South Australia. It's a lovely day today. We're getting into summer now, and I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a big, long, hot summer, and I'm looking forward to the time off of teaching. That I'm only looking forward to the time off because I've been able to put some money aside and survive not just the 2 week between terms, but the 7 week big long break where I don't earn an income as an educator. So 7 weeks without pay. It's a big thing. Yeah. Beautiful. So, yep, we've covered off all these questions here. I'm looking through the list here. If anyone's watching this on a replay, please get in touch to go through this and answer any questions one-on-one. If you can do one thing, if you had a magic wand, what would you fix with the music education admin that you currently run? If you think that my idea is a bit silly, please tell me how. Otherwise, jump onto the sammy.com, pre-register. At the end of this, you'll fall onto a thank you page. Michael David has a link there. I'll put one up there for Benji as well. You can find us on our socials. Where can they find out about you, Benji?
You can find us on socials mainly. If you want to look at my Gigsters, it's mygigsters.com.au. Shortly after the session, you'll receive an email. We've got some lovely gifts to share, so we'll connect to that too.
Beautiful. And Michael?
Mine's nice and simple, accountingbuddy.com.au. You get in touch with us through our website.
Excellent. Beautiful. Looking forward to seeing you guys in person soon, but this just works. We're all comfortable. Benji's got some kids to sort out. Michael's got some of my tax to sort out. and I'm gonna get back on with my software build, which is nearly done. Looking forward to loading a bunch of beautiful educators onto that so we can solve all their problems, every single one of their problems, music education, admin related or not. Give them their life back. That's our goal. Thank you, gentlemen.
Continue the journey with you both.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Good night, Australia.